So hello everyone. There were 2 chairs, but now there's 1 chair up front here if anyone needs. Oh, and there's one right there. Okay, so. Alright, well, good evening. My name is Janet Parr. I am the programming librarian here at Rapid City Public Library. Scott Olson is an avid outdoorsman. He is also my coworker and friend. We have known each other for, I don't know, seven years now. His passion for December and winter probably rivals my passion for summer and heat. So we have a lot to banter about on a daily basis. So anyway, welcome everyone for coming. And with that, please give Scott a round of applause.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for coming to my next seminar here in my Lure of Ice Fishing series. I guess to start out with, how did everybody find out about this? Like to see how everybody found about it on Facebook, or just notices around town, or announcements in the library's newsletter? Facebook? Good. Okay, I was kind of afraid that without some journal coverage this time I wouldn't get quite the crowd. This is my biggest one yet, so thank you very much for coming out. We had a good evening for it compared to yesterday. So we'll get started. So first thing I'm talking about targeting multiple species, because so many of our lakes happen to have more than just one species in them. So with like so many fish, so little time, we're blessed to have so many different species here in the hills. We've got everything from bluegills and perch to walleyes to pike to lake trout. There's just such an abundance of species around here. And we also have so many lakes and smaller bodies of water to pick from that it can be kind of tough to figure out, where to go, what to target, what to use, and how to find them once you pick the lake, where to go. So I'm going to focus on kind of where to find multiple species on different lakes, how to find them with electronics and lake maps, and then the fun part, all the gear to try out. So first one, we're going to go over lakes. Just some slideshows, some slides of some different lakes from the Game and Fish website that are available for free. Pactola, pretty common one, especially the last few years, being the lake trout capital of the area. We thank our friend Craig Euler for making this so popular. But in the past, best places to fish for lakers have usually been kind of the south side the last couple of years, from what I've noticed. Last year I fished a lot in this area and off of this point here. Varying degrees of success for myself, but I did see a lot of other guys in this who were fishing in these areas, catching a lot of lakers and big brown trout in that area last year. What's that? Is that where Waypoint 107? Yeah, Euler won't tell me that. He blurs out the background, so I can't tell where in the world he's at either on his pictures he posts. All I can guess it's probably somewhere in this area, my guess. But otherwise, you got Jenny Gulch way back in here. Popular place for your pike fishing. Some good sized crappie action back there as well. I found that last year. And then back in the Bay Area here, good place for trout and bluegills if you fish around those dock piers that are still in the water. Sheridan Lake, really good at the beginning of the year. Gets kind of dull towards the tournament in January and February, but it's a really popular place for perch fishermen. Probably the most popular place in the hills, I would guess. Beginning of the year, I like to fish for them, kind of on the 385 Bay Area side here, catch a lot of them in this area off the point here, and then towards the middle of the winter, if they start pushing deeper, this area gets really popular with a lot of fishermen out here in the deeper water, trying to find them suspended. Also, these points have also been pretty productive for myself, anywhere from 20 to 30 feet of water, and then you're looking over here closer into 60, 70 feet if you're in that area. Last year's tournament winners, they found a lot of them found fish out in this area here. That's where most of the four-wheeler traffic was concentrated during the tournament last year. Orman. As far as Orman concerned, my main areas when I've been up there fishing are Yaden's Point, which is probably the one that everybody knows about. Really good at the beginning of the winters for the most part. And over by the dam here are some of the places where I've been. I don't go up there very often because the lake doesn't like me, I don't think. I've had some fish on, but I haven't pulled a walleye out of that lake ice fishing 3 or 4 years now. But I keep trying because walleye are still fun and they're good fish to eat. So I'll keep going as long as until I catch something. Deerfield is really gaining a lot of popularity thanks to the lake trout that were introduced there 2 and 3 years ago. But it's got some big perch in it too. If you've seen any postings on Facebook or anything recently, there are a lot of little ones in there, more than there needs to be. But there are some 14 and 15s in there that get pulled out of there every year. But as far as your lake trout activity, for the most part, is concentrated more kind of in this area in here, the Dutchman campground here in the beginning of the year. I heard some guys are catching them back in these bays in the middle of the winter last year. And then towards the end of the winter, I tend to start going to the west side a little bit more. The perch are usually in about 35 to 40 feet of water off of this bay area, this little cove here. And then I'll fish along the reeds, kind of along this area here towards the end of the winter. Good place for rainbows, a few brook trout, and the occasional lake trout that I've caught fishing on that side. And then the gold run, of course, popular place for bluegills. It's almost iced. It's iced up, but it's not quite safe yet, according to a rooster report that I just read this morning on Facebook. The west side, though, I heard is good to go, from what they said. The Stockade is kind of one of my favorite lakes in the last couple of years due to the really good population of good-sized bluegills, perch, crappies, as well as both species of bass and pike. We usually fish a lot for bluegills over on the east side here, past the south of the boat dock. A lot of guys fish they'll tip ups for pike here on the north side or over in here, so you always see tip-up fishermen in this area. Otherwise, later in the winter, we fished a lot in this area here mostly for bluegills again, but I did catch a couple of smallies there, and then I know some guys caught them as well in this area too. So, really good place, and it's got a kind of a bad rep because of the worm problem with the perch, but and you can tell when they've got worms, they got red spots down by their fins, down by their back fin. But still a really good lake, and now that it's got 5-inch walleye in it, we'll see how that does in about 4 or 5 years. And Sylvan, I fished on that 2 weeks ago, and then 4 days later it was wide open. Thank you for this lovely weather we had recently. But there's some good sized rainbows in there. So a few browns I see every once in a while, but for the most part it seems like it's mostly rainbows. I was out there. When I was out there, we caught some nicer 15s, some 16s, and my friend Andy even caught an 18-inch rainbow. I haven't seen a rainbow come out of there ever that size. So I was pretty happy to see that there's some bigger fish in there, a little besides those typical 10 to 12 inchers that you catch a lot of out there. Center Lake is one that I've been meaning to hit because I'd like to try and catch some of those little tiger trout that are in there. But a lot of guys, when I've seen, they've been fishing in these areas, this area here, around the boat launch, and then on the other side of the lake here. I do plan on actually getting there this year because it should be pretty close to iced up good by now, I would think, with this weather turn we've had. And this is Lakota. I've seen there are a couple pictures recently of the guys who posted some pictures of some 16 and 17 inch rainbows that they pulled out of there. So it should have picked up pretty good now for this winter to ice fish on. Haven't been on it in about 8 years now because of the dredging a few years ago, and then they restocked it, of course. But I hear there are still some decent pike in the lake too that survived the dredging, and then with the better trout they've got in there now, so it'd be a good place to hit, especially since it's a smaller lake, so it should be almost good to go by now. And you wonder if you're just up for a quick day trip, 1-2 hours if you got it off work. Nice place just to go past a couple hours, catch some bluegills. This little hump here has been a good place, and then in the deeper water here, I catch a lot of them over there in the beginning of the year get there before January, just because it starts to hit so hard after that it's really hard to get those fish to bite after that. Because they've seen about everything and they've been so heavily pressured. Now locating fish once you pick the lakes. Lake maps, most of these ones here. Many anglers, some of you guys use your GPS from your boats if you got a boat, or mounting your ATVs or snowmobiles. For others, like myself, I don't have a four-wheeler snowmobile. I don't walk everywhere. I like lake maps, the free ones here from the Game Fish, handheld units, or lake apps on your smartphone. The Navionics has a lake app for $10. You get the free lifetime updates, and it has pretty much what you have on your GPS on your boat. So it's a good investment if you don't have a GPS, just to get it on your phone. And then you've got lifetime free updates, and it works without a cell signal. It uses GPS to get its lock. So I use it at Deerfield a lot. My friend Matt told me about that a couple years ago, and I tried it out. Yet you don't need a cell signal; it still works. And the Game and Fish, of course, has the free maps with those ones we just saw, and then many other lakes around in the area or in the state as well. Vexilar, your most important piece of equipment. Sorry, guys. Yes, I tend to wander around a little bit. I'll stand over here. So, have anybody ever forgot their Vexilar or their flasher? What did you do when you found out? Did you keep going or did you go back? I've done that myself too. Without your Vexilar or other flasher, it is very difficult to tell if fish are around and how they're responding without having something there. Because once you've used a flasher, any type of flasher, you really can't go back. It's really hard to fish without it once you've used one. And these are some different models of the different Vexilars. Here we've got, like in the front here, we got a Vex 28, just run the demo model, and then we have a Vex 20, and then an 18. Just a couple of the different models that Vexilar has. There's 8s and 12s. The new FLX series of the 12 and 20s that came out this year, those use the same technology as the Vex 28 does for a lower price point. Using electronics, the flashlight not only shows your lure or your fish that's under you, but it can also tell you what the terrain is like below you as well. How strong the signal kind of depends on if you're in a sandy area, a rocky area, weedy area, and you can use that to kind of recognize where if there might be fish around the area, so that you can judge it better and see what's there, which can just be a factor in finding the fish as what was below you. So I got two types here. Like on this one here, you've got a hard bottom with that hard red signal, and here you've got a little more weedy bottom. Like your bottom would be right here, but you've got some weeds. Weeds are some thinner sand, some real sandy areas here maybe. But if you were pick between this spot and this spot, well, I'd be fishing more around this area myself because more your fish will be attracted more into weedy areas. That's where a lot of their bait and appraising will be hanging out, being the weeds. And the fun part, the tools for catching. So your rods, aim to use rods that are species specific if you really want to. I mean, you can kind of go general, depending on how much. It depends how much you want to get invested into the sport. I mean, you see this is most of my rods up here. I've got rods for everything from panfish to lake trout, walleye, and everything in between, different styles of powers. So like your ultralights, you're looking at about 64th to 16th ounce jigs. Your light medium lights, up to a quarter ounce, or actually up to an eighth ounce actually with those. And then your heavier stuff, quarter ounce or heavier. It's kind of what you're looking for, but you're using bigger stuff for pike and walleye, lake trout, once you get into those styles. I recommend checking out Clam and St. Croix's lineup of rods if you're looking for rods in the store. Good quality rods, and I recommend taking a look at them. There's all kinds of other brands out there. I don't use just, I've got some brands that I represent, but I usually check out my tackle box, check out the rods. I use more than just these brands, because I mean we all do it. But these are some of the ones that I recommend taking a look at. This is an example of some store-bought rods, what they can do. This was the laker I caught last year on my St. Croix. The rod was not intended to catch a fish this size, but it held its own. And then my first trip on the ice this year with my buddy Brandon, this is an ultralight rod on a 20.5-inch rainbow that he caught. And that was kind of fun to watch him reel that in on an ultralight rod like that size. As far as custom rods go, because there's a really big market for it these days, if you've noticed on Facebook or in the ice fishing world in general. I've got some Bricker rods, but probably my absolute favorite are the Glacial Lakes rods from the guys over there on the east side of the state. They really do build some really nice quality rods if you really want to get some really nice custom rods. They'll build to your length. I've got two myself. Put this down a second. If you take a look at it, I've got this is their W3 rod. It's kind of a cross between ultralight and light action, but it's got really good action, nice soft tip. A lot of graphite in it, so it's a really sensitive rod. And then new last year was their greenback. It's got a little flex in the tip, but then it's all backbone. So this was kind of their laker, bigger walleye rod. They call it the greenback after greenbacks up in Lake Winnipeg. So that's those are my custom rods from them, but they're really nice rods. They got a lifetime warranty on them, so it's so it they back up their product with a really good guarantee on it. And they'll handle bigger fish as well. That W3 did catch this 26-inch Laker a couple winters ago for me. I was not intending to go for them. And he just kind of came on the screen and flew and took off with it. Jigs, tungsten kind of is the big one these days. There are a lot of tungsten jigs out there. Not a lot of lead anymore, just because of the popularity of tungsten jigs. It sinks faster. It's easier to control when you're cadence jigging. It's got a lot of advantages over your standard lead jigs. A little more expensive, but you get a little less as far as like for 1 or 2 jigs versus 3 or 4 for lead for the same price. Check out Clams and Northland Tackles and Stores, 8 My Baits, another company that I've gotten in through Facebook. He hand paints all his jigs, and I've got a line of them here up in my tackle in my little jig box here. Come take a look if you want. But he has really good quality work. And this is just some of the different jigs. These are some of the clam jigs. These are the first tungstens they came out with 4 years ago. The drop kick is probably my absolute favorite jig, just because it has really good action. It's really good action as far as what it does for plastics. It really kicks the jigs up. The caviar has been really, this year so far, early season, has been a really good one. I mean, it's most of the bigger fish that I've seen caught so far will be caught on an orange or green caviar. And the snowdrop was new last year. It's got little crystals on top of it to give it a little shine underwater. These are some from Northland last year. This Mighty Mouse here, I've got on one of my rods in the dunk tank over there. It hangs at kind of between a 90 and a 45, so it gives it, when the fish comes up, the hook is right there. It's a nice position for where they're at. And they're really nice jigs. And then these are some of the 8 My Bait ones here. Yeah, he hand paints all these jigs. I don't know how he could do it. And so he'd be consistent with them all, but they're little works of art in my opinion, just because of how nice they are. Spoons. When they're flashy or loud, they're designed to call in fish and usually to get the most aggressive fish out of the way first. You got your rattling baits like the Northland Rip and Shad, the Jason Mitchell rattling spoons, using BBs to make the noise. Flashy spoons like Clams, the new P-Slab this year, or Euro Tackle Z-Viber. They're shaped to really flutter on the way down. And here's some of the new spoons from Clam. We've got the Leech Flutter. They increased the size this year to a 3/8 and a half-ounce model, so for bigger lake trout fishing here in deep parts of Pactola would be nice. This pinhead's really getting a lot of word on the street right now as far as a walleye spoon. This Slab P here, I've got some of those in my box here, and those ones look like they should be really good for the small size and panfish. Bigger ones will work pretty well in bass, I think, down at Stockade. And then the new Peg spoon is a very large spoon. I've got one of those in my box here. Just going to show how big these are. They're really designed for, they named them after Lake Winnipeg, of course. They're really light, but they're pretty big. But they're going to really flutter and flash because of how shaped they are. But yeah, I wouldn't use these in over 20 feet of water, but these things are so light.
Put minnows on those when you drop them down?
Most guys still put minnow heads on them, yeah. They'll still put a minnow head on. They'll sink a little faster, but it's still such a, I think it's like a 50th ounce is all it is. It's a really light spoon. And you got some of your Northland variety here, the Rip and Shad. Last year, the Buckshot spoon. And this year they got this brand new one, the Glow Shot spoon, which I got a couple of those on in here. I've got a gold one up here. And that has a little glow stick in it. Let you crack it like those old ones those lights you shake, you crack them, you shook them. These ones are small enough to fit inside a little slot here, and it glows for 8 hours. So for early morning or late night fishing, it would work really well, especially for when it'll glow for that long, and fish can see it from a long ways away. You can come up here and take a look afterwards. You want to kind of see what they look like, but those should be killer evening walleye lures this year, I think. And then probably my favorite panfish spoon is the Demon Tongue here from 8 My Bait. I used that last year an awful lot, and it caught my biggest perch and bluegills last year, pushed down a Stockade on it. I've got that on one of my rods here. The nice thing is that you usually sell them just on the internet, but this year Cabela's got a whole, he sold them to Cabela's now, and they got them in the store here. Green is probably the best one I've seen, but they've got green, purple, gold, silver, blue, and they're only like $3. So it's a really good price for them. But that's my absolute favorite panfish spoon for sure. And who here has seen or heard of the Z-Viper from Euro Tackle this year? It was all the rage here this summer. A lot of guys are fishing with it. I picked up some of them myself, and I'll be using these a lot probably. They're coming up pretty soon for panfish once when the panfish sticks freeze. But I've heard the action's really good. What some of the guys have told me, it's got little rattles in it, so it'll make noise all the way down. And the hook is just big enough where you can catch a good size. It'll really keep kind of smaller panfish away, and it'll get you kind of get a hold of the bigger ones too. So I'm looking forward to using that one a lot this year. I got this one, and then I got a couple more in the box there too. Plastics. Best advice, use them when the bite's hot if you haven't used them before. I've started using them a little bit about 3 years ago, and I kind of convinced myself to keep using them. And for the last couple of years, I've pretty much been about 95% plastics, and pretty much whatever I go for, at least for panfish anyway. Bigger stuff like walleyes, I tend to still go with the minnow head, but that seems to work better than plastics for them, it seems like. But panfish and trout and whatnot, plastics all the way with them. Red, pink, and purple, my favorite colors. Reds especially. There's this in-store models. You've got the Mackie liner from Plan. You've got the Impulse plastics from Northland. I got some different ones up here that you can come look at later. If you want to go with some online stuff, J&S Custom Jigs. He makes some really good plastics. Says this is Euro Tackle. A friend of mine recommended a couple of the Euro Tackle plastics at the Ice Institute this year in Sioux Falls. So I picked up some of those to use. So as soon as we get some better ice on like Stockade and whatnot, I'm looking forward to trying those out. But these are some of the clam ones. We got the Jamie, probably my favorite out of all the plastics I use. I got it rigged up on one of the plastics in the tank over there. These little tails, it doesn't take much to make these tails quiver. You just kind of sit there and shake your wrist, those tails are bouncing back and forth. It really seems to get the panfish and the trout to really go after it. And then you can go up and down with it a little harder, and they're just going all over the place. It's really nice plastic. And the new lychee and the new necky this year. I haven't used them yet, but the necky here is supposed to be used in tandem. You put this one on first, and you put another plastic behind it, and it gives you kind of a more movement on your plastic. Is the idea behind this tandem rigging that's kind of starting to take off now. And these are some J&S ones. You have the Versamite that we had here for free. We have the Gojo. The Larvamite's probably one of the best maggot imitation plastics you're going to find. It looks just about pretty much like especially on the red color. Looks just like the red ones you can buy out at the Rooster. And these are some ones from Northland. You got the new Zooplankton and T-Bone this year. The Waterflea was new last year. That one worked really well down at Stockade up at Deerfield. And then these are a couple of the Euro Tackle ones I mentioned. This is the Anisotopa, I think is what it's called. It's a dragonfly nymph imitation. And this is the Crazy Critter down here. And that one's rigged up onto one of those too. So come on, you can come on and take a look at them anytime afterwards. Kind of see what they look like in the water. Augers. You've got your gas versus electric, or you can go propane now these days. My Jiffy, big one there, that one was kind of one I used with for a long time. And then a couple years ago I switched to the clam plate with a 6-inch auger on it, that's the hand one. And this year I switched to the K-drill, just to make it a little lighter. This thing only weighs about 13 pounds. And with an 8-inch blade, I should be able to drill. It all depends on the ice thickness, is how these work. And then with the 6-inch, I could drill, I was drilled to 2 feet of ice last year up at Deerfield. I could get 30 holes on a battery. I always carry a couple batteries with me. Otherwise, with an 8-inch now, I'll get less holes because it's a much bigger blade. But I wanted the weight. This is even lighter than that was. So you come on here, give it a shot. It's plugged in. It drills really well. It drills real smooth. And it's really. I use this almost every trip last year, except for a couple of backfill trips on the bigger 8-inch on that one. But now I've got an 8-inch here, so I should be able to use this all season almost.
Does that have to be a hammer drill on it?
Yes, it has to be a brushless drill. Brushless, at least an 18-volt lithium. I'm running a DeWalt 990 model on this one with a couple of 4-amp batteries, 20 volt. A lot of guys run the Milwaukee Fuels, the M18s. You're going to want, it has to be at least lithium, and recommended at least a good brand name, not a cheap one. So if you got any better ones laying around your house, think about the plate. You come up here and just do this. 12 pounds versus 34. For me and for a person who walks like I do everywhere, but pulls my sled, weights is a big issue for me. So I got this a couple years ago, and I've barely gone back to that in a while. It makes such a difference when you go from that to that. And your flip overs, most of us already know about that. You got your standard 1-man, 2-man flip overs here. Mobility wise, they're really nice. You can move them, you can pop them up, go. And they have their real advantages. A little more spendy if you don't have one, but if you're just looking for mobility, they're pretty hard to beat. And of course, you got your hubs. You stay in one place. They're very economical. You're not going to move around a whole lot with them. A lot of people use them as a base camp a lot of times. Or if you got the family out or some kids out with you, throw them in there with a heater. They can be in there all day. And they're probably wearing shorts before too long because most of them are insulated these days, and they'll warm up a lot and without much sunlight. Accessories. Cold Snap Outdoors. A lot of you guys picked up that toothpick. It's kind of nice to have these on you with you because they make your time on the ice a little more efficient. You've got your Cold Snap cover. All 3 of these have got the Cold Snap cover on them. They pop off so much easier than the ones that come with it. As an example, they got this was new this year for the cage drill. They just came out with this at the Institute here. It's just, put your foot down, pop it off. When you're ready to go, just drop it, pop back on, ready to go. It's so much faster, so much quicker than having to get down on your hands and knees and strap them across. So it's just one of those things, it's about being quicker, a little more efficient on the ice. And it saves you having to get down and get your hands around the blades as well with these Cold Snap covers. Rod clamps, I've got one of them mounted in here. You can kind of see how those work if you want to go with a two rod setup, jigging on one, dead stick on another. Reel wraps, you see a lot of the rods, they got those wraps on. The ones I use from Cold Snap, they last all season. They'll last a couple of years. I replace them every year, those because just in case something were to snap, they are rubber, so you never know if they might break down after a year or so. But the ones I put on are all fresh. They'll last me all winter and probably some of the summer if I want to keep them together. The toothpick, which a lot of you guys got, that's it's the one accessory that I always have with me whenever I'm out on the ice. It saves the jig, it saves the fish, it saves you from getting stabbed, and it works. So you take this thing down, right to get the jig, and you just pop it out. So you don't have to get in there and dig with a pliers or needle nose pliers. You might hurt the fish. You might bend or break off your jig, especially tungsten jigs. You have to be gentle with them, otherwise you'll bust off the hook, and tungsten's not cheap. So it's always best to have one of those. If you didn't get a chance to get one, they're only like $2.50 down at the Rooster. Go down and pick one up. They're really nice to have. Or you can go to the website and order one on there. This year they have a new style one. It's been redesigned slightly up here. It's designed where you pop it out even easier with this little nut sitting here now. So, but the ones with the lanyards they'll run like $5, I think. So it's a nice accessory to have with you, just in case one fish swallows the hook or it's hard to get out. So you won't have to worry about breaking your jig or killing the fish. Some online resources. HSM Outdoors, if some of you guys are on Facebook and whatnot, they're a social media company that have staff that post up-to-date outdoor reports and tips every week. It's a once-a-week thing for me. I send them the report or the tip or the story. I tell them my fishing stories a lot because we're fishermen, who doesn't? And then they'll post it on Facebook and on their website. So it's a good resource to use just for some free tips, free information. Clam's Ice Team Forum is still going this year. Once you've signed up for free, you can access all their different links that are on there. And there's some pretty good information on there as far as some different tips and tricks that some of the Ice Team guys use, like Oiler's on there. He posts every once in a while. So it's kind of a nice resource to use. It really doesn't cost you anything. For those who like actual human interactions for their information, go to the Rooster. The guys and gals down there have always been really good about giving up-to-date advice as far as with what's working, where's the ice good, what's biting where, as much as you can believe fishermen for telling them that, you know. They have a lot of ice gear there, including some brands and such that you can't get anywhere else in town here. So I always like to try and go there. They've got like the Venom brand floats, which are gaining a lot of popularity, and they have their jigs, tungsten jigs as well. So, and they also have probably the best bait in the area. I mean, I go there for worms and minnows because they last a lot longer than the ones I bought at Schiller for those too. And the only place in town to get red maggots, which I think they just got in yesterday or today. They said they were getting them in, so we're good. So we should be good there now for at least the first part of the winter. If you still want it, I mean, I still carry meat on me, even though I'm using plastic most of the time. Because sometimes meat works better than plastic. You know, it just depends on depending on what the fish want. You go with what the fish want, and then just be sure to support our local store. And in conclusion, kind of knowing where you're going, what you're fishing for, and what's below you is pretty much half the battle. But try something new, have some fun doing it, and just try and get on the fish. These have been some recent ones this is from my friend Andy, my friend Brandon, and my friend Bo. Got some nice fish. This was the one we just caught at the Sylvan a couple weeks ago. And this was the very first fish that got caught this year that me and Brandon were on. But if you need more, you can get a hold of me at any time at my website or my email there. You got the card I had on the table here. Has all this contact information on it. You can ask me any kind of question. What's biting where, what's biting on what. If you want me to come out with you, no charge. I'll meet you wherever you're at. I just like to go ice fishing with people because ice fishing is really a big social event. For the most part, it's just fun to go fishing with people, anybody. Because this is the best part of the year for me. Is this season. So I just love to get out and fish with whoever wants to go out with me. Otherwise, that's my PowerPoint presentation. So now I'll take questions. Chris?
Let's talk a little bit about safety, because there's a lot of people in this room that's chomping at the bit to get some of it out, some haven't. And let's touch a little bit on the safety aspect of stuff, just to keep people above the eyes.
That's a good idea. I myself have been out 4 times this year. 4 times this year so far. A couple of small ponds, Sylvan that one time. I have an ice fishing suit. I have the Clam Lift suit. It's has buoyancy properties in both the top and the bibs, so that if I were to fall through, it'll keep my head out of the water. I bought that a couple years ago, just so I had. It's kind of my ultimate safety feature. If I were to fall through, I'll go down, but I'll pop right back up because of the suit. I've also got the spud bar over there. We're on the table. I got some of the safety gear over here. We got the spud bar, which I've been using pretty much every trip I've gone to this year. I've been using this because this is your best way to find out if the ice is even safe in front of you. If you can get through the ice on one hard hit, it's only about 2 inches thick now, so it's not safe. If you can get through in 3 or 4, it's about 4 inches, you're probably good. So you just hit a few times and just kind of make your way a few feet, just keep popping the hole until you get where you want to be, or until you find bad ice. I've got the safety rope here that Clam also makes. You got one in here, it's got a hook on it. You unstrap this and you can throw this out. The other end's got the same strap on it, so you can pull. If somebody falls through, you can pull them out with the safety rope here. That comes with me just pretty much every trip, even when the ice is thick enough. I still bring that. Spikes, everybody should have a pair of these. Just to wear around your neck, because if you're by yourself and you don't have the rope or the suit, these could be the thing that save your life.
Why don't you pass those around?
That's a good idea. So yeah, everybody should have them. They're only about $6 or $7, for those. So especially early ice, you can wear a life jacket. I bring a life jacket with me and all the early stuff right now, even though I've got the suit. Because it's that extra safety feature, it's an extra precaution. Because right now, even though the ice is 4 inches thick and like clear ice, it could be 2 inches in another spot. So it's best to be safe. It's better to be safe than sorry, and bring too much safety stuff and not enough. Because you just never know if you were to fall through on early or late ice. There you go. Now you're warm up. One over there. Another question? Back.
How do you fish those hard baits? I heard you don't want to pull them up too fast. You don't want
The harder baits, like the rattling baits and whatnot, like how I've usually done it is I'll sit there and I'll rip them about a foot to a foot and a half to really get the the rattles inside going really good and clacking really good, because I'm trying to draw the fish in with those harder baits. And then if anything pops on the screen, a lot of times I'll switch to kind of a quicker, little smaller motion. I'll sit there and just kind of wiggle it, so it looks like it's kind of injured. But typically, you'll get a few ones that'll grab it right away. I mean, walleyes are really good on a rattle bait. Those come in, the aggressive ones will come in and they'll crush it. But a lot of times, I'll bring the fish in with it, but they don't necessarily want to bite. So when that happens is I'll bring that rattle up quick and I'll switch it to a spoon with a minnow head or something on it, and it'll be more of a delicate presentation to them. If they come in and don't want to do anything with it, just kind of swim away, switch it up, put a minnow head and a spoon on, and try and drop it down and try and just kind of bring them back with using the flash instead of it's a little less aggressive, but it tends to work a little bit. I mean, I kind of use my rattling stuff more as for the attracting part than anything else. I catch more fish bringing them in and then switching something else than I do actually on the rattling stuff themselves. But it helps to attract the fish in, which is the hard part, and that's kind of what they're really designed to do, is try to bring them in from a distance. Well, crappie or perch are kind of the same way. They're schooling fish, and you can only keep them around so long before they move on. And once they move on, it's the hardest part is finding them again. If you're looking at your flasher screen or a flasher, you really can't tell where they swim off to. You just have to start popping a lot of holes. A lot of guys will go, once the school moves on, they'll go 15, 20 feet away, drill a hole, drop the transducer down, see if they can find them again. If they don't, they'll move off in a different direction, kind of in a circular motion until they can find the school again. Because they don't swim away fast normally unless there's a big predator around. But if you're catching 3 or 4 and then they're just gone, you're gonna have to move around to try and find them. The tournament at Sheridan is a good example. They're there and then they're gone, and you have to drill hole after hole after hole and try and find them, especially when they're suspended. One year I drilled close to 100 holes for the tournament just because they just kept moving through. So you pop your hole, nothing there, go to the next hole, and just keep moving until you can find them. So it's a lot of hole hopping, a lot of drilling. That's where being light and keeping one or two rods available, unlike your flasher, with the rod holders or whatnot, gives you an advantage where you can drop something down quick to them, like with a tungsten jig or a spoon or anything like that, and just trying to bring them back if they're in the area. All right, yeah.
How far apart do you drill your holes over your turrets?
Well, for my tip-ups, I'm using Arctic Warriors or the other tip-up I got over here. I usually go about 15, 20 feet apart from each other, just get a good spread around. Usually if I've got those, I usually don't just fish with tip-ups. I'll do 3 tip-ups, and then I'll do a jig rod myself, just to give just see some more active. But yeah, you're covering varying depths. But yeah, about 15 to 20 feet apart usually works best for me. Here.
You ever spearfish?
I've never spearfished. I've seen it before. It looks like it'd be kind of interesting, but no, I've never tried it. But one of these days I might. I see spearing houses out of Sheridan every once in a while, but I've never been inside the house to see it. I've seen it on videos a lot, but yeah, I've never done it myself.
Please don't encourage him to buy more gear.
What? I don't have enough here? I don't know. Yeah.
So when you're out there fishing for the suspended fish and you lose them, just roll your transducer out the hole.
Oh yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah.
That's what I do. If you're in deep enough water, just angle that transducer and shoot it. Just roll it.
Yeah. Do you pick it up and swing it? You kind of swing it a little bit so it does this?
Yep, just roll around your hole.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That's a good tip for the crappie there. Just kind of swing it.
If it's in deep enough water, you can tell it's
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's a very good tip. Thank you.
Kind of along the lines you're talking about chasing sandfish. If you're targeting lake trout, how long do you sit still before you try something different? Or do you just sit in the same spot?
Well, typically, kind of the rule of thumb is 5 minutes per hole. If you can't bring them in from I mean, especially for deeper water, if you can't bring anything within 5 minutes, time to move on because they're just not around. I mean, in Pactola, when I was out there 3 or 4 times this year, or last year I should say, I mean, it was about 5 minutes a hole because we're fishing anywhere from 40 to 80 feet of water. So I'd bring it up in big motions to let the spoon flutter down, bring it up again, then I kind of do shorter ones. Sometimes I do kind of what I watched on a video from Craig Auger last year where he pulls the line out and then puts the line way up. So he's covering almost 20 feet of water column when you do that. And you just let it drop, flutter down by itself. And if you can't, nothing comes in within 5 minutes of doing that, pick a new hole.
What about tip-ups? Do you move with tip-ups?
Tip-ups whenever we've used them, when we used them last year for lake trout, we just left them in the same spot pretty much. Unless if we moved further away, then we would move some tip-ups with us. But typically we just left them in one place for the most part.
I normally use the jigging wraps for walleye. This year I've noticed the Acme Hyperglide lure. Have you heard anything on that or know anything about that one?
Other than what I've seen on TV, on some of the fishing shows when there was one guy who uses that on, he's from Wisconsin. He's an Acme guy, and I've seen him use those pretty effectively. I've never had any real luck with jigging wraps. I've got some. I've used them a little bit here and there, but I've had better luck switching up to jigs or regular spoons than with jigging wraps. But yeah, there are those Acme ones. I do like that glide feature on them with those little wings they have inside. It looks like it would work pretty well.
When you shake them, they can rattle, but I don't know if it would do that underwater.
Yeah, I mean they have those little tiny.
Go up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be more effective probably with the wings. So the extra motion and action will probably make those a lot better than I think your standard jigs. So yeah, I mean, I've seen them in the water, like at the Institute and on TV. So I mean, the action's really cool. I don't have any yet, but yeah, I think that would be kind of the new way to go if you wanted to try a new jigging wrap like that.
How much do you use the camera?
The camera, I use my camera mostly for shallow water situations, like stockade, Deerfield. I like to just try and find out what's below me even better than what I can with the Vex screen. You can tell if you're below on weeds and stuff, with that. But I can tell if they're green, if they're brown. That's mostly what I use it for. Is for bottom identification. Every once in a while, I'll have some fun with it, and if the perch are really biting good at Deerfield or Stockade, I'll drop it down. I'll drill another hole beside my jigging hole, and I'll just set it down there, and I'll use that instead of my Vex screen, and I'll sit there and I'll just watch the fish come up to the jig, and it's kind of fun to watch, and you kind of see how they react to your jigging motion too when you do that. But most guys who I know who use underwater cameras use them mostly for bottom identification, rather than using them to actually fish with. But only if the bite's really hot and the fish are staying in one place, then I'll try with that, just to kind of see how the fish are reacting if they want quick, if they want up and slower. They have their uses. And this is an original micro from like 4 or 5 years ago, and the new model now has got a reel to actually reel the cable up, which is pretty kind of a neat little. I wish this one had that instead of having to unspool like I always have to right now.
So last year, you're out fishing, and you're catching a lot of small fish, like really small, hand-sized birds and stuff. Like switching to a bigger bait or something like that, or looking for a different area.
Yeah, typically, if you're catching lots of small fish, I mean, it's tough to kind of move when the fish are biting. I mean, I've had that issue myself, where I'm like, well, I'm catching fish. Even if they're small, why would I want to move? But a lot of times, if you just move to another spot, you'll find another group of fish, and there might be some bigger ones in there. Yeah, you can try and switch to if you really don't want to move, then yeah, switch. Increase the size of your jig, increase your plastic, the size of your plastic, and you might be able to eliminate some of the smaller ones that way. But yeah, if you're just catching small stuff, just increase your size or move to a different spot. Stockade was that way last year a lot for me, where I'd catch a lot of small ones, but if I moved down 50 yards, I found some bigger ones.
On the Vex one, you'll see the fish coming and going. Drop the camera down, and you'll have to watch them come out, tapping the bait. What do you do to
entice them?
Yes.
Well, that is a good question. There's some days where no matter what you do, no matter what you put in front of the fish, they just don't want to take it, or they just want to kind of live it. You know, and all you can really do is just keep, if you're bringing them in, keep trying. I mean, that's all you can really do is just keep doing what you're doing. You can switch it, you can just hold it still maybe. You can just give a little wrist tweak, little wrist tweak, maybe just get a little tail action like a plastic, That's where plastic kind of come in handy because it doesn't take much to make the little tails move, especially on like the Jamie or the Crazy Critter. I mean, you just barely move it and those little appendages are going to quiver a little bit. And sometimes that'll be enough to actually make them grab the whole thing instead of just mouthing the tip of it.
Yes, I often wondered, I use a lot of tip-ups. Is there a certain distance you stand them apart or not? I see people start to throw the tip.
Yeah. Well, like I said, she asked that question too. Yeah, I'd say about 15, 20 feet in between is kind of what I like to do with when I'm fishing with 3 tip-ups. And I cover, I'll do varying depths. I'll try and find like a weed line if I can. Using the Vex, I'll drill a bunch of holes and see if I can find it with some weeds. Especially fishing shallow water for northerns. And just kind of try and drop it like in a hole around the edge of the weed. And I'll put one out a little deeper and put one out a little deeper. Just kind of trying to find out where they're at, or even vary the depth you're putting the bait at. Put one right below the ice, put one kind of halfway down the water column, and then another one closer to the bottom, just to kind of see where they're at. Yes, sir.
On the UK drill, have you heard anything about your people burning out the drills with their hours?
Well, Vexilar doesn't recommend, or inclined to the ones who use the plates here, and which brand does that. They recommend don't go any bigger than 8. Because anything bigger than that, you have a better chance of burning out your drill, or you won't get near the holes you will, like on a 9-inch or a 10-inch one. I mean, these higher end drills like these ones can probably handle it, but it depends how much ice you have, pretty much. If you have like 12 inches of ice, a 10-inch blade with a drill, you might get 10-15 holes maybe. So you want to kind of stick to the guidelines. 8 inches is kind of the recommended height right now. There is a gearbox that Clam made last year that you can put on the bottom of here, and it helps take a little more of the torque out of this. It was really meant to put on with an 8-inch blade before they came out with the 8-inch K drill. So that'll help, but if you're going to go electric, I would recommend no bigger than 8.
Have you had any luck using the inline drills, or do you prefer the use of a regular spinning reel over an inline?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a matter of personal preference. I mean, if you can see up here, I've got 4 or 5 inlines. Inlines work for me really well in shallow water, probably looking about 20 to 25 feet, unless you got a really smooth inline reel. They eliminate. You can see when you drop them down. There's a little twist when you reel back up. If you have a spinning reel, if you just let your hooks, leave the hook in the water when it gets up to the top of the hole and just watch it, it spins a lot. But when you do it on an inline reel, you bring it up and look at it. It might twist a little bit, but there's no spinning hardly at all with those inlines. So they work really well. All of mine are the quick release ones. I don't like the ones where you have to pull out the line. I like to have the free spool feature. All these ones here have got a button inside. You hit that, and the jig will fall out. So I recommend one with that style. And this is a 13 fishing reel, really a smooth rut. You just from deeper water. And you got your CGI, new claw. The Clam has one too, but they don't have one where you can just pull out line. You have to pull out line, which I don't like. I like to have the button where it just wants to roll on its own. So I mean, it's kind of a personal preference. I like them for shallow water, for shallow water panfish. But you might bust something else on them too. I mean, I caught a laker on that St. Croix line there, and it almost unspooled me. But that's the biggest fish I've ever caught on inline. But it held up, and the drag was held up, which is what I really needed it to do. So. Yeah.
Speaking of line, is there a go-to line there?
I'm a big fan of 4-pound fluorocarbon. Is what I use for pretty much all my panfish applications. I've been a big user of Berkeley in the past, Berkeley fluorocarbon line. Northland's got their bionic line as well. This year, Clam came out with their own ice fishing line from a Sun line designed for them, and I've got 4-pound tests in that, 4 or 6. They got different weights there, but so far I've been really impressed with it. It's held up on its own. I spool it pretty much all with fluorocarbon. A lot of guys just put the leader on, I just put the whole spool with the fluorocarbon line. And I don't have a lot of line twist issues like I hear about fluorocarbon. And so far I've been pretty impressed with the fluorocarbon frost line so far. And I've got I got a spool of mono and a spool, and they've got braided line as well that I haven't put on yet, but one of my Laker walleye rods here will get some of the 10-pound test put on it here in the near future, just to give her a shot. Back.
What is your best preference on getting rid of interference on your Vexilar?
As far as with interference, it's just a matter of adjusting your gain. As far what model do you have?
FL8.
An 8? Okay.
Fish alone.
What's that?
Fish alone.
Fish alone, yeah. That's not as much fun as fishing with people. Yeah, the best thing you can do in that aspect is just adjust your gain until you can. I mean, you're going to get a little more interference around you, but that'll help to eliminate a lot of the interference you're getting. Or you move a little further away. I mean, with those FL8s, there's a limit you can do, but as you get up the different models these days, you've got a little more interference rejection on them. But that's what I would try is just adjust your gain until you've gotten rid of the other interference, or you have to move a little bit to avoid it.
And so like that 20 that I brought you up there, you just hold the button, it'll automatically do some interference resolution stuff like that. The other flashers.
Yeah, and then the 20 does the same thing too. You hit the button, hit the gain a few times, and it goes through the level of interference until you get rid of the interference.
Do you have any experience with the new lithium-ion big size auger versus the Kate drill?
I tried out an ion a couple years ago. I was up on Deerfield, and there was a guy. We talked to a guy who had an 8-inch ion drill, and it drilled okay. It wasn't the lightest thing in the world. I wasn't impressed with the speed. It was it drilled. I should probably a foot and a half thick, but it drills so slow.
But they're still as heavy as your regular guys.
Oh yeah. If you grab even the new Strickmaster has the new 40-volt lithium this year, and I grabbed that, and it's almost as heavy. It's almost as heavy as my gas. So I mean, they're easier to use, as far as no gas, no oil mixing, no smell. But you're not really saving a whole lot of weight by going to like the Ion and the Strikemaster ones, or even the Jiffy's got the propane. I haven't done electric yet, but the propanes are even heavier than gas on some occasions.
Is there a certain color that you better than certain types of day?
Well, for clear rods, it kind of went more on the water. Clear water, I like to use more natural colors, silvers, golds. Occasionally, if it's a sunny day, I'll try some of the yellow or a pink, some UV. Because UV really shines well when it's sun and not a lot of snow on the ice. But if the water is murky or it's darker, try your glows, try your golds. Gold is kind of the all-encompassing color, good for about any situation for the most part. If you're looking for kind of one color that you can use about any condition, it's gold. Yes.
How does the battery hold up for
I keep some guys will put I keep an extra battery when I'm not using my battery. I tuck it in the inside of my pocket of my ice fishing suit, just so that especially when it's below zero, because it's going to sap the battery. Just like if you're going to leave it on there. I experimented with the cage, with the plate itself when it first came out. Craig let me use his, and I took it out to Horse Thief on a minus 15-degree day. The battery lasted. I drilled my holes just fine with it, but I left it on. Went back to an hour later, got one hole, and I was on. So yeah. So after that, I take the battery off, I stick it in the pocket inside of my coat. It stays warm. Some guys will take those hand warmers and a piece of Velcro, put the Velcro on the back of the battery, put that thing on, put the hand warmer on there, and I'll think it warm too. Coolers work well.
The covers, the cooties for propane augers, them batteries will fit right in. So you can actually just take the propane snuggie, put a squish that koozie over that battery, and it's cool.
You ever use those tube jigs for Lakers, the larger ones? Have you ever fished points much with them? Because I've got Lakers on a 5 feet water.
Last year when I was fishing in Pactola, I went between using that flare spoon, because that was what everybody was talking about last year was flare spoons for the Lakers. And the other rod I would have rig up a big white 5-inch tube with about a 3/8 ounce tube jig, you know. I attracted just as many fish with both of them, it seemed like. I mean, last year I only caught a couple Lakers on pack-told, but they were on the dead sticks. They weren't on any jigs. I could see it coming up to both. You can tell on your screen as soon as they come charging up, but I could never get them to take it. But yeah, the white tubes are the most common ones that I've seen as far as what people use out there at Pactola. Yeah.
So you said you put your tip-ups 10 to 15 feet apart, varying depth. When you're jigging around those, how far apart are you jigging and what are you jigging with? Something noisy, something flashy?
If I'm using tip-ups usually for northern, I'm usually have two rods. I'll have one that's got a rattle on it, one that's got some flashy on it, and I'll drill, I'll drill holes within 5 feet of it. You know, if the tip-ups are getting hits, you know, then I usually drill that close. But if they're not getting hits, I'll try and keep within about 10 feet or so. As far as but yeah, I have two rods, one rounding, one flashing, just to see what they want. I'll hand that back there to him. I can answer your question next.
Have you gotten your Lakers to chase pretty hard when you're?
You know, I had them chasing hard at Pactola. They would run up to it. But I think I'm still pretty new to deeper water fishing for Lakers. I've only done it for a couple years now, and you got to kind of keep reeling it up, even though your natural instinct is kind of stop it and catch it. They would come up to it, and I would stop, and they would stop, and they would just go away.
Keep trying to keep going.
Yep, keep going. All the shows I've watched, yeah, they go until they actually catch it. So hopefully this year, if we're watching those and realizing that, yeah, I'm hopefully catching an actual spoon or nuke this year. Yeah.
How heavy of spoon do you use when you're fishing 40 to 80 feet of water?
These quarter ounce. Quarter ounce, yeah. The jigs I was using last year were quarter ounce. Some of them were, and so I had some jigs that were 3/8 ounce last year too. But this year with that new 3/8 ounce flare spoon, I got something that's going to be bigger, heavier. But I plan on using them a lot more this year, just to because they look deeper, faster for both Lakers, walleyes. Although most time walleyes, I haven't caught walleye. I haven't seen a walleye in less than 30 feet of water, or more than 30 feet of water. So quarter ounce was down pretty quick there. Yes.
What's your go-to plastic and color that you just always go to?
The red Jamie. That is my absolute favorite plastic. In the last 2 years, that's caught the majority of my panfish and some trout as well. Otherwise, the Versamite, the J&S Versamite worked really well last year in red or pink. And this year, I'm going to try some different colors, different brands this year, just kind of see what else works. We had the red Jamie, just kill it last year. Early morning is my preferred time. I like to just because that seems when the fish are biting best until about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's when a lot of the fishing seems to shut down. I'm not much for night fishing, although I'll probably try. I'm give them a try here fish for walleyes. The night bite worm in the last few years I hear about all the time. I'm sure you guys do too. It seems to be about one of those times. Temperature pressure. Oh yes, I read that the day before I go out. The pressure's going up. The fishing's always seems to be harder. If it's going down, the bite's usually on. Just the pressure pushing on that ice makes the fish swim bladder expand, makes their stomach shrink. They're not as hungry, they're not nearly as aggressive. And when it's going down, less pressure, more room in the stomach, fish are hungrier, and they go after a lot more stuff then.
Your bands you were talking about last about a year, how well do they hold your reels on?
If you're really concerned about that, and I usually do 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and I've only had a couple of times where you got to crank it. It's pretty hard to get that to come off. So that's usually been the best. There was last year I did stick a third one in the back here because I felt it was lifting a little bit more for some reason. And after that I went bronze. But yeah, 2 in the front, 2 maybe 3 on the back for your heavier stuff. Otherwise for like panfish stuff, 2 and 2. Fine. Yeah, here.
All right. Any tips for moving water, ice fishing like the Missouri River?
What's for what?
For like moving water on the Missouri River. like in the water?
Unfortunately, I've never fished on the Missouri before during ice. I know a lot of guys who fish there usually for walleyes. They're using heavier jigs, at least quarter ounce, maybe even up to a full ounce, depending on where they're at in the river. You're not really either going to use a lot of ice fishing specific tackle unless you're going to be where it's not so the current's not so wild, because there's not a lot of heavier out there than a quarter ounce for the most part. This year there is, we got the 3/8 and the half ounce flutter spoons, but those are going to catch on the way down because they're flutter spoon type. They're going to drift a long ways. It's not just going to dive down like a straight like a jig would. So you're probably looking at least that probably up to a full ounce. I've heard guys using them. Nice.
Have you had any success with just using like now, like tip downs for perch?
Minnows. I usually when I'm fishing if I'm using my tip ups. Usually I'm using the Arctic waters in that case. And it works. They work well as a kind of a border. I mean, it was kind of a border patrol thing. While I'll be fishing in the middle as far as jigs, I'll put one of those kind of deeper water, put another one in shallow water, just to kind of see where it might be at. And if they start biting, well then I'll move over there, drill some hole, and start fishing in that area. So it kind of acts as a way to tell me where the fish are at. If they're not where I'm at. Exactly. But minnows work best on those with small hook. Yeah, so we're in this.
About what time a year do you think it's better to ice fish the walleye?
For walleyes, any advice there, Chris? What do you best luck?
I'm a Norman fan, so as soon as I get 10, 12 inches ice, that's the best time of fishing Norman. As soon as you got good ice, you always got to adhere to that same time frame. And Lyle here, he bangs on more ice than I do, but I'm more of on the, when I got good ice, I'm fishing walleyes. It's pretty much my theory.
Yep. That's where. Oh. Matt? All I know is I've never fished fishing in the store. So he's. Matt, where'd you have Rebecca?
He's over there.
Oh, jeez.
What do you?
Fishing Angostura.
If I remember.
Fishing Angostura. Anybody fishing Angostura?
I've only done it once. You got to be really careful down there, guys. The ice isn't real safe. So last year was pretty fortunate for us. I doubt it this year, the way the conditions are going. So.
He's talking about interference as far as options go, fishing around other people in the same, with a say Vexilar. Would it be different if you had fishing with other people would you have as much interference if somebody was using, say, a market or
From a hummingbird, or you're going to kind of run the same issues you would with any. You're running kind of the same issue because they all kind of use the same frequency. It's just a matter of everybody has to kind of adjust their settings and interference rejection levels in order to until you kind of figure out where you can do one of the other. I've got the Vex 20, I got the Vex 18, I got a Humber 45, and I just adjust both until I figure out if I'm setting this right.
Do you have a preference as far as area?
As far as area of what? One leg better than the other. Well, I'm kind of a big fan of stockade lately. I like being able to go down there and usually catch bigger bluegills, bigger perch, and then get the occasional, smallmouth, largemouth bass, or pike even. Otherwise, Sheridan's always been a popular one for me. It's like one of the more popular lakes in the area, in the hills anyway. And then later in the winter, I like to go to Deerfield a lot because the ice is really thick. It'll last till March and April almost. So those are kind of my main ones I like to try and hit.
My 5-year-old son Jace would like to know how old you were when you first started ice fishing.
Well, let's see. I think my dad first took me out. My first memory of ice fishing is when I was 7. So, and for fishing, when I was a kid, fishing meant he was fishing, I was string around. I was ice skating, and I was saying, Dad, put me behind the sled. Dad, take me on a 4-wheeler ride. I did very little fishing when I was a kid. It was, I like being on the ice just fine. I had fun out there, but I barely fished. I didn't really get into ice fishing hardcore until at the time we were here, actually, about almost 10 years ago now.
He has recently taken a 5-year-old out and some other children, so it is possible it's just short term.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
What is your favorite fish to catch?
Big words. Well, yes. As Dave Gates would say, it's whenever red mark shows up on my Vexilar. But no, I think if I had to pick a species, I really do like to go for, I'd just say bluegills and perch. I really, if you catch a nice size, those ones, they fight really good for their size. Otherwise, a good sized rainbow trout is my next favorite. Yes.
What's your lake trout tip-up setup look like?
Last year was kind of the first time I started using tip-ups for Lakers. When I go out with a couple guys, we like to use shiners, silver shiners, gold shiners, whatever the rooster had at the time. We didn't use like dead baits, smelt like they do for pike. But otherwise, good sized minnows.
Just dorsal fin hooking them and
yeah, just hook them like through the so they can still swim, so they're kind of wounded, but they're still putting off that motion because trout are really, they have that lateral line. You can really feel movement and pressure in the water, kind of a shark. So that's so you want to use lively bait.
Are you off the bottom with that? Or
yeah, off the bottom. Typically about for lake trout last year we were looking anywhere from 5 to 10 feet off the bottom. We just kind of varied it. Well, last year there was 3 of us out there. That was 90 tip-ups. We varied our depths.
Have you ever experienced over-aggressive on your flutter spoons, like for lake trout?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the lake trout. They watching them on the screen there. You're letting it fall down. Just letting watching the screen, and you see them shoot up.
I mean, when you're jigging, you get over-aggressive.
Over-aggressive? Oh yeah, you can stay on the way. Yeah, I mean, if you're just doing this the whole time, they're coming up and just leaving you doing this. Oh yeah, you're being way too aggressive. Sometimes you got to stop a little bit, just kind of flutter it up, a little bit. Yeah, you can definitely get way too aggressive. I use the bigger motions to bring them in, and I'll go a little more subtle after I get them in.
And same first. Have you ever experienced with any scents?
Scents are more on my plastics. I haven't really used scents for bigger fish. Like I used mostly minnow heads, work for for walleyes and whatnot. But as far as with lake trout fishing, I've never used scents. I've used to use big flashy spoons or the big tubes. That's what I've used. If I'm just using flutter spoons, no. Not the way. I'm just using all the attractors on the flash. Yes.
Where have you had the best
Bass? That would have been on the. I'm not sure real quick. All right, so stockade. My best luck for bass was in this area. Last year there's cattails, there's weed lines, there's a lot of stuff in this area. I'm hoping this year that there's that rock face right here. A lot of guys are kind of drawn to it because it's kind of a smallmouth area. And I saw guys cut fishing last year too as well off this rock face here. I did catch a couple of nice smallmouth over here. But that would be, that kind of your look on stuff with bass. Well, the first couple smallmouth actually been on that demon tongue, the green one that I told you about. It's on one of the ones here. Otherwise, the one I caught when I was boat fishing in November when it was only 9 degrees, that was on just a regular bigger tungsten jig. Blue, sure. Skins it? No, I've seen lots of videos for that. It looks pretty slick. I don't keep a lot of fish. I like pretty much fish for fun. I like walleye. Walleye is kind of the best fish, tasting fish to me. And usually if I can catch the walleyes, and my dad fishes up at Shade Hill a lot because I'm from Lemon originally. That's where I grew up fishing, so he'll keep some for me. But, I'm real big on catch and release. I just like to fish for fun myself.
Yes, sir.
Catch and release, what do you do in the first shift? You're going to be catching 60
Well, as long as they can swim down and their bladders have popped out of their mouth, I will try and let them go. But if I brought them up too fast, then I'm going to keep them. I may not want to keep a lot of fish, but I don't want to waste it either. That happens this year a lot when the people are too. If you bring them up too, it's hard to bring them up slowly without them being at the hook. But if you bring them up too fast, yeah, that bladder pops out. And, I'll keep them then, because I don't want to waste them.
Ever tried to put air bladder?
No, I've never tried that. I've seen a couple of videos of it recently, though. It's done.
I just made a basket.
Basket?
Just go to like Hobby Lobby and get some rings.
Oh.
Just wrap it with the like hail screen.
Oh, okay.
Put some weights on it, like tomahawks or weights, and then just get a real stiff pole. Carry it convenient for a minute. Get to them, float in your hole, just hit the button and up, and just drop it down. And you reel it back, and you'll see them shoot out from underneath there in your bag.
Nice.
It's really slick.
Early season, is there an average depth or so that you're looking for more?
Early season, I'm usually shallow water. You're probably looking at under 20 feet for the most part, because everything's still, the weeds are still fresh. The bait's still, a lot of the bait fish are still in shallow. So that's the best place to look for at first ice, is in shallow.
Do you do many of the tournaments in the area? Or?
Well, I've only done the shared tournament the last 7 years now or so, but this year there's a new ice fishing series that just got started over the Rooster, and me and a friend of mine are going to do that this year. I haven't traveled up to it yet.
I'm actually the one that started that.
Oh, you're the one that started it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been with a series like this for a long time.
There's a ice fishing league. If you go to the Rooster, it's $80 to sign up. It's 4 tournaments plus a fifth championship. It's $20 for each qualifiers, so $80 to sign up for you.
Heck of a deal.
And we've got quite a few sponsors, but the first tournament was supposed to be December 16th at Stockade. We're pushing that, or Sheridan, and we're going to push that back to December 30th. But there's still a few spots open. Just stop in at the Rooster.
Yes, thank you for starting the tournament series, by the way. That's going to be, I hope Sheridan freezes here. It's frozen.
Yeah.
But that's next Saturday. All right, we're gonna do some door prizes now. I can ask more questions later. First, we got a pack of a whole bunch of those plastics, different colors. Try and use Troy Rommel. There you go. All right, and then I got a jig set here, some forage, some remember forage stuff. There's no name on that one.
That's not yours.
Jared Pospel. Sorry, what's your name here? Pospel. We got a panfish set here from Northland. We got a whole bunch of forage spoons, plastics, line, and some jigs in here. To Scott Oswald. This is going to be this nice hat we are letting go prize for this information. If you're not allergic to rabbit, you don't want it. Jeff Knudsen. You're going to go with that one you're wearing right now. All right, I got a $10 gift card from the Rooster here. You have to put your name on here. First drawing goes to Bob Anderson.
Thank you very much.
No problem. And if you get a chance to with any of these ones, the Rooster one, or Cheetos, or the Cabell stuff we get in here, if you get a chance, make sure you say, tell them thank you for donating this stuff. Next gift card goes to Trevor Z. Gotta be here. Nick Gladsberry. Dan. Thank you. All right, so then we'll do, I got a couple extra gift cards here. I got a couple $10 Shields cards now. So we'll do one of those. So first one goes to Riley Rogers. There you go. You're welcome. Next one goes to Phil Hunter. There you go. All right, then we'll do one of the rod combos now. These are 25-inch light actions. You have the option of putting a spring bottom in this little tip part here. It's kind of a neat little deal for a good Panthers trout rod. The first one, Bruce Abbey. Next one, David Howland. Was it that right?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and for the big ones, $50 gift card. Shields. Alexis Abbey. All right, guys. Well, that's my presentation. Thank you for coming, and don't forget. Cabela's having a very large ice fishing sale. I've gotten you in the mail already. I'm going to be there. Craig's going to be there. A couple other guys are going to be there, including a couple guys from Euro Tackle and Auger as well. There's a lot of stuff on sale, including Clam and Northland stuff all over on sale. So actually, if I just this weekend getting down there sometime, check out some of the new stuff. Check out the ad if you want to. It's all up here. So yeah, we'll be out there pretty much all day. So come on out, check out some stuff, and we've got about 10 minutes before I got back up. So. Some of the gear. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.